Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Khan podcast. Today, I'm joined by Dion. Dion, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, bro.
Yeah, I was reflecting on when I met you, and it feels like it was just the other day, and at the same time, it feels like it's been a minute.
Yeah,
That just
whenever you
makes
told
me,
me how far off it was, I was like, that's a long time. We had like a short meeting.
yeah, yeah. But what's interesting about that meeting was, you were a good conversationalist, I remember.
Yeah.
You knew how to keep a conversation going and kind of like go off the cues. It was cool. You had a lot of interesting things to say as well.
Yeah, for I have to do that a lot for work. You start meeting like a lot of high people up in higher positions, so you kind of have to steer a conversation or take one thing and go to the next and try to keep it flowing more or less.
Yeah. Something I've noticed about being able to do that with the conversations is there's so many different ways that you could take something. There's so many different trains of thoughts, and you might be tempted to take all of them and jump onto all of them. But the fact of the matter is, you got to hop onto one, and that will take you on its own little journey.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can't take them all.
yeah, for sure. Like when you deep dive on YouTube and you're going down some rabbit hole for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to put it, actually. Is there a rabbit hole that you've been going into these days?
Not so much. Just being off work, I've been trying to spend more time with my kids, but I've started watching recently this guy that he got laid off from his job and he just started trying to resell things. And he's already done it for like 4 months. I can't remember the YouTube channel's name, but uh he just shows like the ups and downs of like going to the thrift store and eBay, like now I don't want to say scammers, but you know, they say like the cheaper customers usually the ones that complain more and stuff like that. And I've been watching all those and they're like an hour long each and I've been like sitting through them whenever my kids are asleep or something.
I remember one time my friend and I we were at this like picnic thing, and one of our mutual friends was sort of sitting in the distance, but we could see on his phone he was watching some really niche thing about cars and engines. And my friend was like, "Isn't it interesting? All the different things that people watch on YouTube." And I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, like the sort of things that I'm into and you're into, we might have similarities, but there's also so many differences. We're into our
Yeah,
own stuff.
for sure.
But that makes
Especially
me
with
wonder. Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
No, especially like when you're trying to like you say when it comes to engines and everything, trying to fix a vehicle or something like that. You don't really look anywhere else now besides YouTube. You
Hmm.
just like, okay, I'm gonna YouTube how to fix this. And that's usually how most people do things nowadays when it comes to fixing a vehicle.
Yeah. The other day, my dad, he bought a grill and we were putting it together with the instruction manual, but a couple of instances we had to like go onto YouTube and see, hey, how do you do this part? It's interesting that that's the world we're living in now, where videos and tutorials online are taking over.
Yeah, exactly. It's like an encyclopedia essentially, or
Yeah,
a summarization of like an owner's manual.
yeah. The stuff that you were going into the rabbit hole with, how did you get into that?
I think it was on my recommended. The one time that YouTube recommend actually got me, and I was like, I think I was bored. I was really bored, and I just came back from eating with my sons, and one of my sons asked to go play his Xbox, and the other one asked to watch YouTube on the TV. And I think I just I just opened YouTube up, walked away, and I came back, and it was on, or it was like one of the recommended ones, and I was like, I'll see what that's about. And then I don't know, I was stuck on it. I was stuck on it for like the last probably 3 or 4 days. I watched all the episodes.
Hmm. What do you see in your son that is most reflective of you?
Uh, my oldest son, he's very sensitive And I think I am too. I try to like mask it a lot, but I'm very, very like I don't want to say sensitive. It's like I want things that a lot of like men don't want. Like I want my family, I want marriage, and especially guys my age doing what I do, like traveling out of town for work and stuff. Usually they just want to sleep around and that kind of stuff. But I've never really been into that. And then my younger son, he's got my temper. When I get angry, it's like more or less I see red. But he for sure he's asleep right now. He stayed up late watching YouTube. But yeah, he has a lot of anger problems. Him whenever he gets in school, it's gonna be terrible. But my other one, he's the nicest kid, never gets in trouble, never does anything bad. So
Does that surprise you? Like the dynamic between your children's like they're
they
still
always
both your
say the
children.
second one is terrible, and I was like, no, mine aren't. But no, man, my second one is terrible for sure. And then my daughter, she has a, I'm sorry, she has a different mother, and she's got, I want to say she's pretty spoiled by her mom, and she shows a lot of her mom's qualities and not so much mine, which I'm thankful for sure.
Wow. That sounds very cool. You mentioned sensitivity, and I like that you mentioned it because about a month ago or so, I was really thinking about that concept of sensitivity. And I was thinking about how perhaps it's not a bad thing, perhaps it's not something weak, perhaps what it is it's proof of depth. You're as deep as the ocean inside. That's why things matter to you as much as they do. And maybe if you're not sensitive, you're kind of shallow. But
That makes sense.
more on that topic of sensitivity. Um, you said you try to mask it sometimes. What ways do you do that with, or how do you mask it?
Uh, it depends on your environment. So, um, if you're somewhere where you feel like you're, I don't want to say out knowledge, but more or less out experienced. Some people try to, the term is fake it till you make it. But I never really tried to do that one too much because I feel like when you do get caught up where people can tell that you're faking it, you just look a lot dumber than if you were to actually just say, "Hey, I don't know what I'm doing." But it depends on the environment for sure. Like if I'm going somewhere new, depending on who you're with. So, if like I said at work, it's a bunch of men. So you would think after high school or even like college, stuff like that, men would grow up. But when you get to those kind of places, it's nothing but guys for months at a time out of town. So all they talk about is women, drinking. They'll try to like, I don't want to say bully, they'll haze you. Every once in a while, you'll get someone that doesn't like that you don't speak their language, which majority of the time, and what I do is Spanish. And because I look white, they don't realize that I understand a decent amount of Spanish. So they'll try to pick on you with that stuff like that. And you kind of gotta, you don't, I don't want to say that I'm not scared of them, but I'm not afraid to stand my ground, more or less. Like I haven't been afraid, I haven't been scared for a long time when it comes to like another man, but I'm not afraid to stand my ground. The only thing you have to be careful with and like walk on eggshells is who you're standing up to. So if it's a higher up, you could get passed up on the next job because you didn't necessarily agree with something that this particular person said. I've had people, you know, um, not realize that I'm Hispanic and they'll be like, yeah, these Mexicans taking our job. And I'm like, I'm like, do you not realize that I'm Mexican? Like, what are you talking about? And they immediately will stop talking to me and I won't hear from them again for, a good long while until I'm forced to work with them again. And they'll be like, oh, I was joking and blah, 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 stuff like that. And I'm just like, ah, man, it's all good. Like, I understand everyone, a lot of people have their own secret prejudices. So, uh, I'm just like, it is what it is. Depends on how you were raised and how you think as adult once you're on an independent adult. So certain life experiences, some people tend to not like other, I don't want to say races, but just qualities of other people that they tend to make those, you know.
Secret prejudices. That was a nice bit of language there. That was cool. What was your job again?
I actually work in I would say it's considered the oil field, but I work more specifically in the refineries. Like
That's right.
yeah, so it's depending on where the job assignment is. I had just got back from, I think I talked to you about it. I had just got back from Chicago,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was up in Chicago and Joliet, and it was freezing and raining and cold every day, and I was on night shift, so it was like 28 degrees, and it's not that bad, 28 degrees, but then when you're up on like the seventh or eighth level of a structure, and it's just blowing wind the whole night, and oh man, it was terrible. I've never been so close to quitting a job than I was. It was a couple nights where it just rained, and I want to say I didn't have a raincoat because what I was doing, I wasn't really able to wear one. I had to wear a harness and a bunch of other stuff over it. So it was very uncomfortable wearing a raincoat.
What keeps you going?
Uh, my kids, but more or less, I'm already out there. It's just one night. I was only out there for about a month and a couple, maybe a week. And I'm like, I'm already here, man. Like, just suffer a couple more hours and you get to go home and sleep and do it all over again and hopefully be more prepared or have better weather.
Yeah. And the time must pass there.
Yeah, depending if it's raining and cold, no. But if it's like hard work, we do this thing. It's called chipping. It's essentially think of a smaller jackhammer and you take it and you say your wall is it's layered almost in concrete. Imagine concrete on the wall, but it's more or less for insulation. And it's like it's got like ceramic fibers and stuff in it to make it a lot more heat resistant. But it's essentially a smaller jackhammer, probably like 25, 30 pounds. And you chip essentially concrete off the wall. And you have to do like above your head sometimes. It's pneumatic though, so it's ran by air pressure, but it is not fun at all. It's a lot of hard work. But whenever you're doing it, what's nice is a lot of times they'll give you a partner and you'll go to you're tired and then you'll switch with them and then they'll go to they're tired and essentially it's like a misery left company. It's a lot easier when there's somebody else suffering with you and you look at them and they're telling you their hands hurt and their shoulders hurt, they're sweating, and needing water and we're having to wear a respirator and a harness and all kinds of stuff. So it sucks, but it's like almost a camaraderie you get with these guys that you never met. They're from different parts of the US and y'all like kind of having like a crappy time together.
And how often do you see the same people at different locations?
Mm, well, with our company, um, it's actually quite it's newer, so it's a tight knit. So usually you see a lot of the same people, but sometimes you'll have some that avoid going up north because they don't like the cold or they don't like working at certain parts of the year because it's too hot. Because we do get inside these big metal vessels and it gets really hot. But they try to avoid having too much work in like the very hot part of the summer. But sometimes you do get jobs that like right now, hopefully in start of June, we're supposed to have a job that's going to be only 50 hours a week and it's going to be for about 2 months. And that's actually a sweet gig because usually it's 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for, anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks. So it's kind of nice to feel like you have a normal 9 to 5 again, even with it being 10 hours and an hour drive and stuff like that. You have time to come home and do stuff besides use the bathroom, shower, shave. Like, yeah.
How'd you get involved with all of this?
So in this part of Houston, which is Baytown area, there's a ton of refineries. And if you graduate high school but you don't go to college, and maybe you get a cert, or you don't even have to get a cert, you can actually go into the plants. It's probably the best paying job without an education, without like a formal like college degree or anything like that. But if you do get one, it's also a plus. But around here, it's kind of what everyone does. There's certain parts of the country where everyone gets into this or that. the southeast part of Houston. Everyone more or less gets into this, and there's plants everywhere. Like if you go into Deer Park, there's a street that has nothing but all the refinery companies, the contractor companies on the road, so you can literally go from one building to the next to try to get a job. And they usually start around 20, depending on what you're doing. So like they have different types of things you can do. So you can hole watch, which is somebody that makes sure there's no they sit outside of wherever the workers are going in, and they'll make sure there's no fires. They'll make sure there's no contaminated air. So they have like this air monitor. They keep track of who goes in, who comes out, just in case something were to happen, they know who has to come out. Then you have like, welders, pipe fitters. You have all kinds of different trades that everyone does, or different crafts that everyone does. And so, depending on what craft you do, depends on the pay. So, like a scaffold builder, they usually are like bottom of the totem pole, and they usually start at like 16, and the highest they'll go is probably higher 20s, and that's for like some of the bosses. And then, you have your welders that usually start in the 30s and go up from there. And then they become specialty welders. And there's all kinds of different routes you can take when it comes to working in the refineries. And then once you're in, you also have a lot of guys that tend to say, oh, well, I want to go try this next, or I want to go try this next. And you can hop around and get different crafts under your belt. So, say what you're doing slows down, and then you can start doing another craft and stuff like that.
Earlier, you were talking about the hazing and whatnot. And something I was curious about was when that sort of tension is going on with your peers, does that feel like politics or not really? Would you call it
It,
something else?
It is a lot of politics for sure. Ton of it. Yeah.
Wow. And do you bury your feelings when that's going on? Or because I remember you mentioned standing your ground, but I wonder if burying your feelings is a part of that.
A lot of times if someone's trying to mess with me, like I've had a couple guys that I don't know them very well, but they know a lot of my family. So what they'll tend to do is, I guess they kind of try to test me, uh, how I'm going to react. So they'll treat me at like how they treat my brothers, which is fine, but they don't know me. So they may say something to him playing around, and I take it serious. So when I got to this one of my first jobs, actually, I want to say it was my second job. Um, I met this guy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know your brothers," and blah blah blah. And he's like, "Yeah, they always joke around. They're like, oh, he's a piece of shit," and blah blah. And I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Yeah, like you too." And he said something, and he like got in my face, and I was like, I couldn't tell if he was joking, so I got angry and I pushed him, and I was like, man, I said, man, you get the hell out of my face. I was like, I don't know you, dude. I was like, you know my brothers, but I don't know you. I don't care. And I was like, I'll get fired. I don't care. It is what it is. And he's like, no, no, I'm just joking. But a lot of guys tend to do that. They'll push your buttons to see how much they can get away with.
Yeah. Why do you think people do that? Because
I
I get the feeling, I like to think of myself as a sort of calm person. And from what little time I've known you, you kind of struck me that way as well. You're kind of calm, kind of stoic. But why do you think people do that? Why do they push buttons? Why do they
think
poke at people?
I think where we're at least, it's like I said, it's nothing but men. You're nothing but around. You're not around nothing but men for months at a time, and it's almost like they go back to like high school stages to see who's bigger, who's badder, and then their favorite thing to say is, you're not worth the fuck. They're like, oh yeah, I heard about him. He's not worth the fuck. When it comes to like working, like they'll basically try to say that you don't do nothing. And a lot of times, the people that try to call you out for not working are usually the ones that don't do no work. They're more or less, we call them a supervisors. They'll just say stupid shit and supervise. They don't actually do anything. So a lot of times it's those people, or more or less they're trying to make you look bad to hide more or less them not doing anything all day.
what do you reckon is the best way to mind your own business when people are trying to push your buttons? They're trying to mess with you.
I tend to just tell them, I'm here to make money, not friends. So I was like,
Mm,
you don't have to talk to me. We don't have to talk to each other at all. We're here to work and I'm not here for you. So yeah, because I know recently there's been talks of like fights and stuff like that. It happens quite often, but more or less lately they treat it as like a real assault charge, like if you were out in public and not so much just at work. So it's calmed down a lot. But a lot of times, if you do actually like, say, even you and me got in a fight and you hit me first and I swung back, we were both still get in trouble. Like you would get charged with like battery or something like that, but I would actually get blackballed from a lot of the refineries as well because they don't allow any kind of like physical fighting or anything like that.
wow.
Then you have no money, no money for a long time. So you have to find
Yeah.
different refineries to go to and stuff like that, and it's not fun.
Yeah. This is all very interesting, the things you're sharing, because I think it's cool. It's like another world, at least for me, like we have different lives and just like, wow, that's fascinating. I have like a glimpse of that, the oil refineries.
Yeah, it's not for everyone, that's for sure. Uh, I would say if you're single with no kids, it's a great job. It's if you're younger. And then you do tend to find a lot of older men in there, but a lot of the older men are they have this mindset um, that if I show this younger man how to do my job, he's going to take it from me. So a lot of times they refuse to teach you. So I found a couple guys that are, they have knowledge, they have experience, and I'll go to them and I'll just ask them like, hey, they don't want to teach me. Would you be willing to teach me something? And usually they say yeah. But it's something about the older men that tend to have like this gatekeeping of certain things that they. It's not like you can't learn it on your own, but it's a lot easier if you have a couple steps from the older guy that knows what he's doing.
I like that word that you used there, gatekeeping. Do you ever find yourself being a gatekeeper?
Not really, because I'm so new. I would say I've been doing it for about 6 months.
Well, I
Uh,
guess in general, just
oh,
even
in
outside the
general,
work aspect,
no,
yeah.
not really. I'm pretty welcoming to everyone I know. Like even this, I met you randomly, and you were like, "Would you be willing to do a podcast?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm open. I don't care." And I see it as just other experiences, like you said, like different avenues you've taken that I haven't, stuff like that.
Yeah. The gatekeeping is something fascinating to me as well because I think it's something in parallel with like people believing in jinxing stuff where they kind of have a
Superstition.
not superstition necessarily, but it's a mentality, a scarcity mentality sort of. And so they feel like there's not enough for everyone, so to speak. So I have to like hold the reins on
Yeah,
this and I
exactly.
can't love people through. And so yeah, it's an interesting thing to me. I think
I think it's
gatekeeping is in line with that.
they have the saying it's too many cowboys, not enough Indians. Like
Ah,
people want to, be in control and there's only so much controlling that can be done and then you have to have people that are followers, leaders and followers. There's too many leaders and not enough followers and sometimes it's your turn to follow and you don't realize that. And yeah, that's exactly like what you're saying. It feels like there's not enough to go around, so they think they hold on to what little bit they have.
yeah. There's this video game that came out a few days ago. It's called Hellblade: Senua's Saga. And at the end, the main villain is this tyrannical king. And the plot is about killing giants and whatnot. And it turns out that this tyrannical king, he was leading his people through a tragedy after a volcano erupted. But when things started to get back to normal and feel nice, he noticed that they felt less inclined to listen to him. They were just more interested in living their own lives in harmony. And that pissed him off. And so in the story, he creates these giants. He begins to wield fear and he
Ah,
thrives off the fear of all these people. He becomes a gatekeeper, you know. He has that scarcity mentality. So I was thinking about that. Like it just these sorts of things they create tyrants, and I've definitely experienced that in workplaces as well. It goes along with the politics too, you know.
exactly. Did you did you actually beat the game yourself or you just like watched like a playthrough?
I watched a playthrough because the first one was available on PlayStation, but the second one was only Xbox.
Really?
So yeah,
That's terrible.
unfortunately, yeah, it is. But it was. I watched the whole thing. It was ambitious. It was an ambitious second game.
Did you happen to catch the Fallout series on Prime?
No, I've never played those games either.
No, no, they actually released a show series on
Yeah, I'm
Prime.
aware of that. I'm aware of
Oh,
that, but
okay.
I haven't played the games either. I don't know anything about that universe.
The games are really, really good. I got into them when I was probably like 9, and the first one had came out maybe a year or two before that, and I was just at GameStop with my dad, and I saw a used game, and it looked cool, and it was like my first really in-depth like RPG where you have to like put skills into speech and charisma and you know stuff like that, and it's an incredible universe. Like I would highly recommend maybe if you don't play the games yourself, maybe watch like a summary or maybe some just videos on the lore, and then you don't even actually have to watch that, but the show kind of shows it. The show kind of I don't want to say dumbs it down, but summarizes it to where people that have never played the video game can actually understand what's going on. Essentially, what Fallout is how people from like the 50s and 60s would have viewed the future. So they still use like you know the cars with the big fins, stuff like that. They still use those, but um, they're hover, like they hover instead of have like you know different body styles and stuff like that. They just hover now, or the TVs are still in black and white because they never discovered whatever technology we use to make like colored TV, and it's still like the big bulky one that uses the I don't know if they're big bulbs or whatever they are, stuff like that. It's kind of cool, and they have like a big uh what is it obsession with like space. So you have
Hmm.
like gas stations that are like red rocket gas stations, and you know because back then it was like the space race and stuff like that. It's pretty cool, but they have like a fascination with robotics and stuff like that. But it's really, really good. I would recommend the series, especially for people that aren't into the game. The series is really good. People that are into the game, the series is not 100% accurate. So a lot of people tend to like not care for it as much. But overall, I would say most people enjoyed it.
It's about an apocalypse, right? That whole franchise.
Basically, I would say an apocalypse, but it's more or less like if we had got nuked.
Hmm.
We had got nuked, and there's a lot of politics in it. There's, you know, just like in real life, there, you know, the higher up companies are secretly, you know, the puppet masters and controlling small things and here and there, and you know, they fund this government and tends makes the government lean this way and stuff like that. It's pretty cool though.
Yeah. I like how you mentioned that thing about, you know, putting in work to the speech and charisma of the role-playing game. Something there's people that I encounter who say, "Man, I'm so grateful I never grew up playing video games." And I counter that with to them and I say, "I'm so grateful that I grew up playing video games because there's so many things that video games taught me that I don't think I would have learned otherwise." And some of that is actually like speech and charisma that you find in the writing of those games. When a character interacts with another character, or there's a mission going on, or some objective you got to complete, and they're speaking to themselves or to someone else. There's a lot of there's a lot of things in video games that you could learn from and develop in your own self.
Yeah, I think
It's
a
not
lot of it
just
has
kids
to do with
play.
yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with generations. So like The very old generation was radio for them. They would sit around the radio and listen to people read stories, and then it was television for the next generation, and then I feel like it's video games for us. So it's they don't see it, they don't understand it, but that's our version. Like, a radio is you get to listen to the story. Oh, okay, that's cool. And the movie, you get to watch the story. But a video game, you get to be the story, which is, I feel like, a big difference. It's like, you feel more immersed and you get to make certain decisions that you wouldn't obviously get to make as in a movie or anything like that. I feel like it's a lot more personal. So I feel like it's just the older generations don't understand for sure, but I feel like I've learned a lot from video games as well, good and bad. But I mean, same thing with movies, same thing with, a lot of things.
I like how you put that. Yeah. I had a friend, he was telling me something similar. He's like, man, when we're watching a video or a movie or TV show, or we're just scrolling on our phones through social media, it's all just consumption, consumption, consumption. We're just consuming, but we're not actually engaging in that. We're not interacting with that. And that is the wall that video games break. You're consuming all this information, you're absorbing all this going on in this world, and you're interacting with that. You're making the choices and the decisions. It's a really cool and unique way to learn things, I think.
Yeah, like you said, consume, and it's probably not good to only consume. So it's good. I haven't found a very good single player game in a while. I've been looking, but I like games that have some kind of story. Even sometimes online games. What's good about them is they're never the same every time you play. There's always something different happening, or it can be depending on the game. You know, I've been playing like I play like some Minecraft with my son. He always tries to, he's 8, so he has a great imagination. So I try to like go along with his story or whatever he wants to do next, stuff like that. And it's a lot better, I feel like, than, like you said, just consuming. You get to actually make your own stories and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
a lot of times if it's raining, if it's nice and sunny outside, I can see the point of like why not just go outside? But if it's raining, what are you gonna do then? Just sit inside? We're like, well, if I can sit inside and play a video game with my son, I feel like that's still bonding in a certain way that you can't get by just sitting in the house.
yeah, dude, I love how you mentioned that. Playing video games with your son. I think that is definitely, there's definitely a bond there. And I remember when I was younger, and I'd be playing a video game, say my dad sat down in the living room watching with me. I'd be like, yo, my performance has to be really good here. I have to show him the coolest stuff going on.
Yeah,
Like it's a bonding moment, It's you want to show, you want to show that. So it's
yeah,
interesting.
I've done that before too. You try to bring out the parts that make you like, oh, because you're hoping it'll catch them and
Yeah.
yeah, get them into it somehow.
And I noticed that with my little brother. Like sometimes when I'll sit down and he's playing a game, like I'll see him doing that too, like suddenly now his fingers are moving extra fast. He's busting out all the moves, trying to show me the coolest parts. And I'm like, yeah, cool.
Yeah, my son does that when it comes to he tries to get me into Roblox so bad and I refuse. And I'm like, I'm not getting into Roblox. And he'll try to find like things that I'm interested in. Like I'll say I'll have a like a Call of Duty or like some kind of FPS. And he knows I like FPSs and he'll find one on Roblox, and I'm like, it's not the same. Like, and he's like, yeah, but it's kind of like your game. I'm like, no. And he's like, you want to play Roblox? I'm like, I don't want to play Roblox. I could play that on my cell phone. Like, no, I'd rather, if I have a PC, I want to, play on my PC, something that
Yeah.
actually is meant for PC.
I will say, you were asking about like that single player. Have you ever played The Last of Us?
Yeah, actually,
Oh,
I
okay.
my stepfather heard about it, and there was a buddy of ours that was selling a PlayStation 3. I think it was 3, right? First one it came out on. And he was selling a PlayStation 3, and I haven't played PlayStation since like PlayStation 2, and I was on Xbox for, probably like 10 years already. And my stepdad got it, and he's like, I can't play because he's already in his 40s. He struggles with stuff like that. So he's like, can you play and I just watch? And so I remember every night for like probably 2 weeks, I just sat down after we had finished working because we had a family business at the time. and I'd game for like 3 hours playing The Last of Us, and he would just watch.
I
And
love that. It's
it
such a
was actually
wholesome
really
story.
cool. Yeah, it was really cool. And then when part two came out, I think it's PlayStation 4 then,
Yeah.
and uh, we haven't got a chance to actually play that one, but we did watch the series together, which was kind of good. That was actually a really good series too.
Man, part two is an epic game. It's probably one of the best games I've ever played.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
insane.
I know the first one grasped me, but since then I haven't really
I
even
love
like
that whole universe. That
yeah.
the story writing, just the characters, everything about it is so
Did you
beautiful.
also watch the show or?
I didn't. I kind of felt like, hey, I the game sufficed for me. I didn't need a TV
It
show
is,
type
I'm
of
not gonna
thing.
lie, it's good, but I like the TV show because it's not 100% accurate. It's it has a couple surprises here and there, but for sure it what is his name? Pedro Pascal. He plays the part of Joel so well, and it's great. And I actually liked him from like The Mandalorian and stuff like that. So I was like, I'll try it, I'll try to watch it, and it immediately hooks you. Like you learn about some things that maybe you weren't paying attention as much into the video game. You learn about some background to like the story and everything like that. And it's a great watch. Great. Like I'm excited for the next season for sure.
That's what I hear. Yeah. But Dion, we're coming to the last couple minutes here. I had fun in this conversation. It's very
Me too,
candid, it's
bro.
very in the moment. I'm wondering, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you felt like you wanted to say but you didn't get a chance to, or something on your mind that you wanted to express?
No, but this is my first podcast and for sure it was nice.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. It was cool having you on.
All right, yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. I suppose until another time, eh?
Yes, sir.
All right.